Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4 o'clock, your last chance to take the trip or keep the cash. Plus, is there a MAGA civil war brewing? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
The left has completely lost their minds. And nothing exposes that more than what happened yesterday. We've got several TVs on in the studios while the show's going on. And I saw this unfolding in real time, but I'm not listening to what's happened, so I couldn't comment on what was going on because I didn't have all the details. I saw, from my perspective, all I saw was protesters going head-to-head with ICE in a field in California. I didn't have any of the details of what was going on at the time, and I'm glad I took the time to find out what was going on. Because this thing shows how off the rails the left has gone. According to Fox News, protesters clashed with federal authorities Thursday during an immigration operation north of Los Angeles at a marijuana farm which was employing illegal immigrants. Multiple agents arrived at Glass House Farms, a state-licensed cannabis facility, which is considered illegal under federal law. Federal authorities had a warrant for illegal employees. Another raid also occurred at another Glass House farm in a different area of California. In addition, the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Lee, said the FBI has offered a $50,000 award for information leading to the conviction of an unknown suspect who appeared to fire a pistol at federal law enforcement officers near the farm. At the cannabis facility, investigators found 9 unaccompanied illegal immigrant children. 9. So, hang on a second. Can we just process everything I just said in a short summary? You have a farm in California which is growing marijuana, which is legal in California but illegal federally, and they were using illegal alien children to pick the crops, and the left is protesting the ICE agents who are trying to shut this down? This is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Talk about putting the left on the wrong side of things. So, at the cannabis facility, they found the 9 unaccompanied migrant children. Fox pretties that up a little bit. Tricia McLaughlin told Fox News, she's the spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security. She said, "So glad our law enforcement could rescue another child." Now, Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott said the facility was under investigation for child labor violations. He posted a picture on X, which has the faces blurred out of everybody, but says these juveniles found in the marijuana facility, almost all unaccompanied, one as young as 14. California, are you ready to partner with us to stop child exploitation? So the protesters are trying to stop the feds from stopping child human trafficking. We all clear on this? And then one of them fires a gun at the ICE agents. And what's even crazier is the Democrats are defending this. Let's start with the lamestream media, shall we? And how they're covering this insanity. They're all covering up where these kids were working, and they're all covering up that it was kids. The New York Times. Federal agents clash with protesters during immigration raid at California farm. The Guardian, almost identical. CBS. Protesters and Border Patrol agents clash near Ventura County farm in California. ABC. Federal agents conduct immigration raid at Southern California farm, clash with protesters. NPR. Channel 9. Channel 3. Channel 12. All of them say the exact same thing. Not one of them mentions the kids. Not one of them mentions it was a pot farm that was exploiting child labor. Not one. Here's something else. The person who owned these farms is a donor to California Governor Gavin Newsom. So the Democrats just didn't want you taking their slaves who were picking their crops? Wow, how very Civil War of you. Because that's literally what this is. That's literally what it is. Protesters are on the wrong side. Democrats are on the wrong side. Now about this guy who was firing the gun. Footage of the incident showed that a man appeared to shoot a gun at federal officers as the chaos ensued. According to the Post-Millennial, federal agents and National Guard personnel execute a search warrant at the marijuana farm, sparking a large protest. This is the shtick now. What happens is ICE goes into a place. People find out ICE is there. They put it out on social media, and all the people who don't have jobs at Starbucks or are off shift come a-running. Authorities use smoke canisters to disperse the crowd. But you have Gavin Newsom going, oh, the poor children. Look how they're being gassed by the federal agents. But meanwhile, leaving out the fact that those kids were at a pot farm being used as child labor. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for any information leading to the conviction of the man with the gun. So the question is, who is this guy? A protester that showed up? One of the human traffickers who had these kids on the farm? There was not just 9 of these kids. There were 10 minors who crossed the border illegally who were found at that location. Guys, this is literally human slavery. This is literally human trafficking. And the left is defending it? And the protesters are defending it? And the media's covering it up? This is beyond crazy. Now, as you heard from KVI News at the top of the hour, there's a judge getting ready to stop ICE raids across California. How come no judges were trying to do this when Barack Obama, the deporter-in-chief, was doing all the deportations of illegal aliens? Oh, right, because it's Trump. Judge Mamame Uwise Menase Frimpong, sorry if I mispronounced any of that, for the U.S. District Court of Central District of California, is set to rule that federal immigration raids across California must come to a stop. She imposed a tentative order that was not made public, though that ruling is expected later today. She was appointed by the Biden administration, so that's the only excuse she has for not stopping these things during the Obama administration. The group who filed the suit includes the ACLU, which also brought a class action suit before the U.S. District Court of New Hampshire to block President Trump's executive order opposing birthright citizenship to be implemented. Now, here's the thing. The American Civil Liberties Union is trying to stop the ICE raids. You would prefer the kids remain victims of human trafficking? You would prefer that illegal alien criminals remain in this country? Well, that seems to be exactly what they would prefer, which is beyond crazy. The ACLU has nothing to do with America anymore. It's how much can we fight with America. It should be the anti-American Civil Liberties Union, because that's exactly what these guys are. The protesters who showed up threw rocks at federal vehicles. These guys should be arrested on the spot and say, we're not putting up with this nonsense anymore. So, the president of Glass House Farms, the cannabis farm that federal immigration authorities raided in California, has donated thousands to Democrats in California. According to Fox News, co-founder, president, and board director Graham Farrar, who self-identifies on social media as residing in Santa Barbara, has made numerous political donations to the Santa Barbara County Democrat Central Committee's Federal Political Action Committee, and Representative Salud Carbajal, who's a Democrat in California. According to California Public Campaign Finance records, he also donated $10,000 to California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, this is a guy who is funding all these Democrat campaigns down in California, and yet how's he making his money? Off child labor on pot farms. That's how he's making his money, which he's giving to the Democrats. You want to know why the Democrats are speaking out so loudly against the ICE raids on his farms? Because their donor is losing his slave labor. which is beyond despicable, by the way. They should be running the other direction from this guy and say, we didn't know. We didn't know. We'll never take money from him again. But no, they are wedded to this insanity. Well, the good news is the gravy train is over for some of these illegal immigrant criminals. Listen to this report from Fox News.
All right. Also today, the Trump administration is doing away with many taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal immigrants. Among some of those benefits ending, free tuition, food assistance programs, Head Start, access to federal workforce development grants. The White House says the move will preserve roughly $40 billion in benefits for American citizens.
Wait. I thought illegal immigrants didn't get any of that money. I thought it was illegal for illegal aliens to get any of that money, but somehow they were still getting it. Here's something else, by the way. Where's the crying AOC at this farm? Oh, the children, the children. Where's everybody talking about the kids in cages? Haven't heard them say anything about this. In fact, Tom Hoffman was calling out the Democrats on Fox News, saying there were 300,000 missing children during the Biden administration, during his border catastrophe. And then they didn't say anything about that.
But Tom, it strikes me unbelievable that the Democrats are not on board. When you look at this raid, there were 10 juveniles that were illegally brought across the border. You and I covered this under the Biden administration. I was down in Texas. We encountered 8, 10-year-old, 12-year-olds coming across with just a name and an address and a phone number on their necks, the cartel ruthlessly sending them across. And yet now we know that 10 of them, 8 of which were unaccompanied minors working illegally in a marijuana farm, and your agents go in and rescue them essentially, and yet there is violent resistance to that. Does that upset you?
It certainly upsets me, and like I said, you know, the work men and women of ICE are doing is incredible. Look, we're looking for over 300,000 missing children. We've already found 10,000. Have you heard that anywhere? No, the media is simply not covering it. And look, this should be a nonpartisan issue. Arresting public safety threats and national security threats, everybody be on the same page on that. Rescuing children, I mean, it should be a nonpartisan issue. Everybody should be in lockstep on that, but they're not. The media is lying. The Democrats they don't want President Trump to be successful. I got news for them. We are being successful. Every illegal alien public safety threat we arrest makes this country safer. Every national security threat we take off the street and deport makes us safer. And we're rescuing thousands of children. The lives saved every day by ICE, the lives saved every day by Border Patrol, are in the hundreds. So the only thing I can think of, Griff, if they hate President Trump more than they love their community. They hate President Trump more than they want, safe communities. And there's just no other excuse why this is not, why this has become a partisan issue to take public safety threats off the street.
By the way, Tom Homan's exactly right. Exactly right. Their hatred of President Trump runs so deep that they are protesting ICE agents saving children from slavery at a pot farm. That's how crazy this is. President Trump, on his way down to Texas, said something very similar.
You know, something that you should have that you haven't reported. As you know, 300,000 children are missing, right? 300,000 under Biden. We've already gotten back 10,000 of those children, and we have a lot more planned to come back. We're getting them back by the thousands. But 300,000, and we've, as of this morning, over 10,000 we've gotten back.
You never hear the left talking about those kids that went missing. What happened during the Biden administration was a human catastrophe at the border. You know, I never heard them talking about on the left? The kids who drowned in the Rio Grande. The kids who were thrown into the Rio Grande by drug runners who were using the drowning kids as a distraction so they could sneak past the border agents, or I don't even know why they needed the distraction at all, given how easy it was to come into this country. The people who died making the journey from starvation, from lack of water, from you name it. You didn't hear about the kids being human trafficked. 300,000 kids, we had no idea where they went. Remember, they kept yelling during the Trump administration, oh, you took these kids away from their parents, even though that was an Obama-era policy that Trump fixed. But you don't hear that from the left. They hate President Trump. so much that they'd rather see kids remain in human slavery on a pot farm than admit that the federal agents did the right thing here. So how many kids are out there still in the open? Stephen Miller was talking to Fox News about it.
Well, first of all, the president has been clear and consistent in saying that he's going to fight labor trafficking and child trafficking. And this marijuana plantation is a clear-cut example of labor trafficking and child trafficking, which are heinous crimes. Additionally, I don't know of anybody except the governor of California who would argue that a marijuana plantation is an essential component of America's food supply chain. Everywhere you look in California, you see industrial child exploitation on a massive scale, an industrial scale. There are likely hundreds of thousands of children in California who are being exploited for their labor or sexually exploited as part of sex trafficking. This administration is liberating these children and helping reunify them with their parents back in their home country. What the Biden administration did with respect to child trafficking is one of the great crimes in human history. Over 500,000 children were illegally trafficked into the country under the previous administration. When we've gone and looked for these children, Martha, the addresses that the U.S. government provided, in other words, the records that the government kept under Joe Biden, are all fake. Nobody ever checked if the addresses were real. Nobody ever checked if the sponsors were real. Nobody ever checked if they were really even relatives or parents or relations or safe. We recently recovered a young illegal alien, for example, who had been raped repeatedly by the adult male that the Biden administration handed to her. She was under constant video surveillance and was coached exactly what to say if an officer ever knocked on her door so that she would never be rescued. We have example after example. We go to homes, 13, 14, 15-year-old children who are raped on a daily basis because the Biden administration, because the Democrat Party chose to traffic them into this country. So we will be unrelenting in our effort to free these kids.
Yeah, this is a huge story, and the Biden administration tried to push them out of these holding facilities at the border and into the arms of people who were picking them up. There were some cases where one person picked up 150 children. So I doubt very much that was their uncle.
Were not all their children.
The Democrats were complicit. The Democrats wanted this to happen. Why? So they could have the people working their pot farms, so their donors would have cheap labor. And they could still appeal to the lefties who wanted a higher minimum wage and say, oh, we want a higher minimum wage. So you keep your voters happy by saying to your base, look how much we're raising your wages. And then you say to your donors, don't worry, it's not going to affect you because we're going to make sure you have a never-ending supply of cheap labor. It wasn't just about illegal immigrants voting. It was about keeping the slave trade going in this country. Literally, nothing's changed since the Civil War. Democrats haven't changed at all. It's absolutely reprehensible. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, a 3-year-old is abducted when a car thief takes a car with a child inside. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Scary moments yesterday in our neck of the woods. An Amber Alert went out saying that a 3-year-old girl who was reported as was abducted in a stolen SUV from Seattle. Horrifying, by the way. Parents, I don't know how many other ways there are to say this. You cannot leave children in cars. Number 1, it's hot. Number 2, it's Seattle. If you wouldn't leave your luggage in your car when parked at Pike Place Market, you shouldn't be leaving your kid in the car. Now, luckily, the child was found. But this is another, yep, that's a Seattle story. Horrifying. Thank God the child was found. Now, my sister-in-law was driving around yesterday, clearly listening to the news and discussing it with my 4-year-old niece. Here is my 4-year-old niece's summation of the story before we knew the kid had been rescued.
Okay. Well, me and Mommy were going to camp, and she dropped me off, and there's a bad guy, and he was sitting in front of the car, and he was taking a child in Seattle. Well, at least that child can get out of the, well, I hope that child has a knife to cut him, and he will go back to Seattle. And how about she go to the family back?
Yes, please.
Well, this hurts my feeling. And please, Hashem, give the child back.
Please, Hashem, give the child back. That's an ask for God to give the child back in Jewish world. Wholesome content is wholesome. Yes, a child's understanding of all this. Hope they have a knife so they could get the guy. Yeah, absolutely adorable. But yeah, scary, scary thing. Parents, don't leave the kids in the car. Even if they're napping, go to the grocery store later. Run the errand later. Can always be done later, or take the kid inside with you. Absolutely horrifying story. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Weldon in Silverdale. Weldon, what's going on?
That's Redmond, actually. But, yeah, Lori, I heard you say that nothing's changed since the Civil War. Well, there's a big change you're missing here. The states that were fighting to take away the southern states' slavery are now the states that are fighting to keep slavery.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, look at all the ones that have imposed these sanctuary laws. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're right. You are right. Maybe all those people who say the parties switched have something actually to their argument. Yeah, Weldon.
Here's another funny thing. The Bass, the mayor from Chicago, from Los Angeles, she was whining and crying about the federal powers coming in and trying to take over federally the cops and everything else. So she's against federal power, which was basically what the whole Civil War was about, was, states' rights above federal rights.
Well, we know how much Bass knows. Bass, let's not forget what she said. She denied the riots ever even happened in California. Remember this from yesterday?
Mayor Bass, this is kind of more of a broader national question. Reports indicate that ICE agents and police officers in Texas have been targeted in ambushes, including in Alvarado, where assailants in tactical gear allegedly lured officers with fireworks before opening fire. Given your strong opposition to federal immigration enforcement actions in Los Angeles, how would you address similar escalations of violence against law enforcement in Texas? And what steps would you propose to prevent such unrest from spreading to Los Angeles while balancing community safety in your sanctuary city policies?
Well, let me just say that the quote-unquote riot.
Yeah, so she's the one who said the riots never happened. She pulled a total Jay Inslee there.
Well, that's news to me.
Right, Weldon? You remember when he said that?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I remember. Oh, could you imagine last year? Oh, what fires?
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean? She was out of town during the fires, Weldon. Appreciate the call, buddy. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text. at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, the Seattle Times is sticking up for this insanity against the ICE agents. I'm just going to read their article for you. And you guys, please don't throw anything at your radio. Please don't drive off the road. We want you to be safe while you're driving. Just get mad at the Seattle Times, and when you get to somewhere safe, cancel your subscription. This is by Catalina Gayton. Relief washed over the face of attorney Britton Schwartz's client as he left his immigration court hearing Wednesday morning at the Henry M. Jackson Federal Building in downtown Seattle. Hours earlier, rumors spread on social media and over encrypted messaging apps that ICE agents were expected to resume detaining people at Seattle immigration hearings. Schwartz said she prepared her client for the worst. But the client, who is from Honduras and lives in Burien, was not taken into custody. So wait a second, let me make sure I got this right. That's the Seattle Times' very, very complicated way of saying this is an illegal immigrant who's living in Burien, who's on trial for a different crime. Let me just make sure I got that right, because that's exactly what's happening. Or alternatively, they're at an immigration court hearing. So is this something where they just went through the process and their fear of being grabbed off the streets is being kicked up by the media and the Democrats, and there was really nothing to be scared about? And it was being created more and more on social media? Do you think maybe that's what it is? The absolute fear-mongering insanity that the Seattle Times is responsible for and that the Democrats are responsible for. Plus, I love the image they have here. You know the top image, the picture of this story? It's a bunch of people standing around in a courtroom and the picture of President Trump hanging up in the federal building. I mean, unbelievable, the fear-mongering that's going on here. I don't see the Seattle Times talking about how awful it was that Washington State Trooper Christopher Gadd was killed by an illegal immigrant. Instead, what did we see the Seattle Times doing? Getting mad at people like me for calling him out that he never should have been in this country in the first place. He shouldn't have been around to be driving drunk and high at over 107 miles an hour when he plowed into a Washington State Trooper. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up?
Oh, nothing much. You know, I'm just sitting here at home right now. But anyway, about these 300,000 missing kids, did you know that most of these kids that are out here now, are here illegally, are living in fake addresses, and they have fake encrypted phone numbers?
Well, what we just heard from Tom Homan, I don't know about all that, but what we just heard from Tom Homan is that the Biden administration was accepting fake addresses and letting people pick up 150 kids at a time. So God knows what's even happening to those kids. Leonard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from the 586. Ari, that was a South Park moment. Getting used to only hearing adult voices on this program, only to have an actual child voicing a child. Well, it's not voicing a child. It's my niece. She's adorable. She's quite cute. Was a lot like whenever South Park has real children play the toddlers with the abrupt and playfully jarring toddler audio. Thank you. That's why we did it. We thought it was cute, and wholesome content is wholesome. When we come back, my friends, is there a civil war brewing inside of MAGA land over the Epstein files? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. one of the reasons that the economy has not come roaring back is because interest rates are still ridiculously high. Now, we need to control inflation, but inflation has been dropping. So you should be bringing down the interest rates as inflation falls. Now, there's a school of thought, which seems to be the one Jerome Powell is going by, which is keep it at really high levels until the inflation's completely gone. But the problem with that is that causes issues for big ticket items. So, for example, people aren't buying houses because the interest rates are just too high, which means their mortgage payments are going to be much higher. People aren't buying cars because they figure, well, I can deal with the one I have until interest rates come down. Big ticket items, people aren't buying. In addition to that, businesses aren't expanding because they say if we need to borrow money to expand, why would we do it when the interest rates are higher? So you got to ask yourself, why is Jerome Powell keeping these interest rates so high? Well, now there are reports that Jerome Powell is considering resigning. And to tell you what kind of good news this would be, the chairman of the board of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, William Pulte, said that he is encouraged by reports that Jerome Powell is considering resigning. This would be huge. He said, I think this will be the right decision for America and the economy will boom. This comes after Trump called for a probe into Powell over a $2.5 billion upgrade to the Federal Reserve's headquarters. $2.5 billion? We should have a real conversation about whether or not we should even have a Federal Reserve. But I'll take that one for now. We'll put that to the side and just take the fact that Powell might be resigning. Is he doing it to protect the Federal Reserve? Why do they have $2.5 billion to spend on a renovation? If you have that much to spend on a renovation, that means you got a whole lot more aside from that. So we should really be asking what these guys are doing with our money. Switching gears over to resignations that would not be good. There are reports coming out from the Daily Wire. This is not the left-leaning media. Originally, I would be skeptical of these reports if they were coming from CBS or NBC or anybody else because they love to say, oh, there's trouble in Trumpland. This is from the Daily Wire. Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, is threatening to leave the bureau if Attorney General Pam Bondi remains on the job, a source close to Bongino tells the Daily Wire. Bongino is reportedly furious with Attorney General Pam Bondi over her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, which has led many to believe he could walk away from the job that he took in February. The source close to Bongino said that he's effectively issued an ultimatum saying he won't work alongside Bondi. Bongino left a lucrative career in broadcasting to take the job in the Trump administration. He was not present at the FBI on Friday after a reported spat with the Attorney General earlier this week over the Epstein situation. The rift between Bongino and Bondi intensified on Wednesday, days after the Department of Justice announced there was no evidence to prove that child rapist Jeffrey Epstein had a client list, had blackmailed powerful people, or had been murdered. Bondi had promised to reveal major details in the case 5 months ago when there were no massive revelations to bring forward. Now, the deputy FBI director, Bongino, who raised questions about Epstein's death before he was in the Trump administration, said in May that his review of the file and hours of video recording from Epstein's jail prove the child abuser committed suicide. Funny he mentioned that, because you know what else happened? Wired magazine did an analysis of that video that's been going around the internet, which has the 11 hours of Jeffrey Epstein's cell, and it found it has been tampered with using Adobe Photoshop. That's right, it's been tampered with. We all knew it was missing 1 minute at least of footage, but now, according to Wired magazine, it's been tampered with as well. So, a source close to the Justice Department told the Daily Wire that Kash Patel also wants Bondi gone, and he would consider departing alongside Bongino. The source said that Patel wants Bondi to unseal more documents. Now Bongino is considering sending in his resignation over the fallout with Bondi. While it remains unclear if Bongino will step down, his normally active social media account has been quiet since Wednesday, when his frustration with Bondi reportedly boiled over. I want to know what you think. Do you think this is much ado about nothing, or do you think this shows somebody's covering up for somebody else? Do you want to see Bondi gone? Or would you rather see these guys work everything out? Perhaps Trump needs to step in and say, okay, guys, we're just going to release all the files and everybody can decide what they want to do with it there. What do you think? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, the president did weigh in on Jerome Powell.
I think he's doing a terrible job. I think we should be, I think we should be 3 points lower interest rate. He's costing our country a lot of money. We should be number one, and we're not. And that's because of Jerome Powell. In terms of interest, we are number one in the world.
He's right. He's 100% right. You could have been lowering the interest rates as inflation went down. Maybe keep them a little bit up, but bring them down a little bit to encourage more growth, to encourage more investment. But that's not what Powell did. By the way, we're also coming up on the one-year anniversary of the attempted assassination of President Trump. Fox News is releasing little pieces of an interview he's doing tonight on the network, talking about what it was like that day. Give a listen.
Well, it was unforgettable. I didn't know exactly what was going on. I got whacked. There's no question about that. And fortunately got down quickly. And people were screaming, and I got down quickly, fortunately, because I think they shot 8 bullets. And one got me, and one got another one, and one got another one, and one killed Corey, the firefighter. Great guy. And, we had a tremendous, massive crowd. Tens of thousands of people were there. And our sniper, within less than 5 seconds, was able to get him from a long distance with one shot. If he didn't do that, you would have had an even worse situation.
I'm really looking forward to that interview, and we'll for sure have clips of that on Monday for you. I love this text I got about that audio segment from my niece earlier in the show talking about the child abduction. Ari, we don't want unpaid child labor on the Ari Hoffman show. Please tell us your niece will be treated with an ice cream bar or something else good. All right, 360, I will get my niece something special, my 4-year-old niece, so that we don't have unpaid labor on the Ari Hoffman show. Very, very good, especially given the opening segment today. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, when the right gets it wrong. I saw the Superman movie, and I bet you most of the people criticizing it on the right didn't. I'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I knew this was coming. I saw the right having a complete meltdown over the Superman movie, and I said, I'm going to reserve judgment until I actually see the thing. The right has been saying all week it's anti-American, it's flushing Superman down the toilet, it's woke, woker man, or whatever it is. What's funny is there's actually a segment of the movie itself which talks about garbage online being done by bots about Superman. That's what this was. Garbage online being done by the right, unfortunately. I saw the movie last night. I'll have my full movie review of Superman on Monday at 4:45 during The Real Deal, where you can win fantabulous prizes as well. For now, what I'm going to say, anybody on the right who is saying this thing is anti-American, who is saying this thing is political, who is saying it's woke, has not seen the movie. You want to discuss if this thing is good or not? That's a discussion. You want to discuss the direction James Gunn took with this movie? That's a discussion. But to say that this thing is anti-American or pro-illegal immigration or any of that stuff could not be further from the truth. Let's just start with this. Half the shots of the movie have an American flag in them. It's everywhere in this movie. The stuff with his parents, about the values from Kansas. And there's a major plot point I can't give away, but those are the values that Superman chooses.
I don't know about all that because, he's a literal alien, a literal illegal alien immigrant person. And furthermore, the cherub-faced Kent family, Ma and Pa Kent, they're human traffickers.
Yes, they are.
They've taken this immigrant boy, this illegal alien boy, and they have taken them for their own. No papers. They're human traffickers.
Well, the Kents. Shall we talk about them for a second? The Kents. These wonderful people who raise their child with American values to be a contributing member of society. Is he on government welfare? I don't know. He works at the Daily Planet. I'm not sure how the Daily Planet's doing these days. But, by the way, sidebar. If you want to see something entertaining, you got to go over to Wolf Blitzer's social media account. Yeah, I know. I never thought I'd be saying that statement out loud. Wolf Blitzer yesterday takes a picture of himself with a cardboard cutout of David Cornsweat's Superman. He's the new guy who's playing Superman. And he says, I'm excited, something to the effect of, I'm excited to have an interview coming up with fellow journalist Clark Kent. And the replies are amazing because everybody's saying, dude, you just doxed Superman. You just gave away Superman's secret identity. What the hell's wrong with you? And saying, what do you mean? Clark Kent only wears glasses. That's not Clark Kent. Whoever is saying this thing is woke has not seen the movie. Like I said, you want to say whether or not it's good? That's a discussion we can have. And we will have that discussion on Monday. Dean Cain, friend of the show. Love Dean Cain. Pro-America. He does this whole tirade against the movie. And he admits in the tirade that he did that he hasn't actually seen the movie. Now, he was reacting to James Gunn's comments. James Gunn made multiple comments about how it is political and how it is about illegal immigration. He says it's about how we support immigrants, and if you don't like it, you're not American. Okay, you want to criticize Gunn's comments? You can criticize Gunn's comments. You want to criticize the merch, which reportedly says truth, justice, and the human way, even though everybody's taking this one report from Cosmic Book News. I'm not familiar with the outlet, but they're not one I usually rely on. In fact, if I have toy questions, I go to our in-house expert, Mike. Mike, have you seen anything about this? About the marketing being redone for Superman that says truth, justice, and the human way? Because I didn't see that at all. No.
How about no?
Exactly. Mike's our resident toy expert, and he's not seeing any of that. So I'll tell you, my friends, right now, you want to discuss?
I mean, most of the Superman action figures do kind of look like Shooter McGavin, but that's all right.
That's the different problem entirely. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Mike in Everett. Mike, make it quick, buddy. Running out on time.
How dare you? Did you not know the benefits
and the good American values of Superman as Clark Kent as a child. The Kent family owned the Kent General Store, and he worked from the time he was a young man all the way until he went to college in his father's general store.
I thought he worked on a farm.
No, they changed that for the TV show.
They changed that for the. I'm pretty sure I read some of those comics, and he was working on a farm.
When were those comics produced?
Well, I've got a whole bunch of them going back to like the early 30s. So I got some of those. Mike, I would love to continue this conversation, but I got to run because we got some prizes to give away. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, your chance to take the trip or keep the cash. Plus, also, there is no justice in this state after a GOP election observer is found guilty of a felony for not wearing a mask. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a Republican activist locally is sentenced for a felony for daring not to wear a mask at a ballot counting location. But before we get to any of that, my friends, you work hard, you need a getaway, perhaps some financial relief. We've got you covered with KVI's Take the Trip or Keep the Cash, sponsored by our friends over at Budget Tank Removals. This week, you can get away to Portugal with tram rides through Lisbon, castles in Sintra, or wine by the sea, or have a chance at $3,000 cash. Now, all you have to do is text the word I give you to the number I give you, and we'll get you in the daily drawing to get a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, and you could win a trip or keep the cash with KVI. Now, a reminder, this is your last chance to win. The contest is done today. After this, no more chances. No more chances. So, this is the day you want to enter if you haven't won yet, and you want to follow my directions very, very carefully, because I can't believe after a month of this, some of you are still getting it wrong. So, if you want to be entered for your chance to win, text the word VIBE, as in I'm getting a good vibe off today's contest. Text the word VIBE, V-I-B-E, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Don't text me your name. Don't text me your address. Don't text me your phone number. Don't say, Ari Hoffman, you're the most beautiful radio host in the entire world. You could do that later. For now, just text the word VIBE, V-I-B-E, to 206-421-5757. You have until 5 o'clock to enter. Remember to check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more.
So, Ari, I have a breaking news. You know, your next spot in your script was going to be like your next chance at winning is at 5:45 during Good News, but I have breaking news. I have Mr. KVI in the studio with me, and he's given me this cockeyed eyebrow, and he's just like, "What are you talking about? It's the last day." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's the last day of the contest," and he's like, "Flip over the page." So then, no, not you, me. I have the master list of all of the contests and the words, and it ends at week 4, Portugal. And then Mr. KVI says, turn it over. What did I find? 4 more weeks.
Good news. You get 4 more weeks of the contest. That doesn't mean you shouldn't enter today. Of course you should enter today.
That's a real vibe.
It is. Here we go. We will correct the fake news, and we will say this is your last chance to enter to win the trip to Portugal. Next week, we'll have more chances to win fantabulous prizes. So make sure you enter the keyword VIBE at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Switching gears over to stories that are going on here. I've never seen such a grosser miscarriage of justice in my entire years of doing this. So, we told you yesterday, as the news broke, that Tim Hazelow, former Island County, Washington Republican Party chair, was convicted on 2 counts, including felony unlawful entry, after refusing to wear a mask while serving as an official election observer during the November 2024 general election. Hey, when did those mask mandates go away? Was it 2021, 2022? What business is there of being any mask mandates whatsoever? I don't remember any of those. Is that law? Custom? What's going on here? Hazelow is a well-known Republican, well-known supporter of President Donald Trump. He was authorized to be inside the Allen County Elections Office last fall as a Republican observer. Masking rules were instituted by the Allen County Auditor, Sheila Kreider, requiring all observers to wear face coverings while in the ballot counting area years after most of the pandemic restrictions had been lifted across the country. She claims she imposed this because half her staff got COVID during the previous election cycle. Question, do you think it's maybe that they're opening envelopes that people licked and not because they're next to other people? Just a thought there. Yet another reason not to have mail-in ballots. Just put that one out there. By the way, did the masks actually do anything to stop COVID? Last time I checked, they were completely ineffective. Hazelow refused and was ultimately removed by the Coupeville Marshal. He was later charged by Allen County prosecutor Greg Banks. On yesterday, A jury found Hazelow guilty of one count of second-degree criminal trespass with one count of felony unlawful entry into an election facility under a Washington state law that is rarely used. He faces up to a year in prison, as felony conviction can jeopardize his job, which requires a security clearance that he cannot have if convicted of a felony. During the trial, jurors were shown body camera footage of the incident in which Hazelow is seen calmly seated and refusing requests from election officials to put on a mask. Law enforcement eventually escorted him from the room. He told the jury, "I signed in. I was authorized to be there. I walked into the room, sat down, and sat quietly. I didn't disturb anybody. I didn't touch a ballot. I quietly sat there by myself." The case drew additional attention because Island County's elected prosecutor, Greg Banks, chose to personally try the case, which is an unusual move that critics argue points to bias. Banks has a history of making inflammatory remarks about Trump supporters and anti-mask individuals on social media. In past posts, Banks has compared Trump supporters to Nazis and the KKK, calling them racist bullies with second-grade intellect. He said we need to cleanse the planet of their diseased thinking. He also publicly wished death on people who refused to wear masks during the pandemic. Yet he wasn't called out on any of this? Because the judge wouldn't allow that to be admitted as evidence during the case. Also, he did a mea culpa, and he said, they were just jokes. Do you know one of these graphics is a bunch of people standing there in KKK outfits, and one of them is pink instead of white, and there's a MAGA hat there, and he goes, forgot to wash them separately. Those kind of jokes, they're just jokes. He had to issue a statement to his staff because he got called out on this so badly, but the jury didn't get to hear about political prosecution. The judge barred Hazelow's defense from introducing the prosecutor's past statements as evidence. Observers also pointed out what they describe as selective enforcement. Como News visited the election facility the day after Hazelow was removed and found other individuals, some of them staff, not wearing masks. Police body camera footage also showed at least one officer holding but not wearing a mask. The police officers they called to arrest Hazelow for not wearing a mask were also not wearing masks. None of these individuals faced charges, but that evidence was not allowed to be presented at trial. This is political prosecution at its absolute worst. Now, Hazelow is not the only Republican observer who's been charged in Island County. Tracy Abdul, another Republican volunteer, was removed under similar circumstances, is also facing trial for felony charges after refusing to wear a mask during ballot observation. This is insane. The initial citations were misdemeanors, but were later elevated to felony charges by the anti-Trump, anti-Republican, pro-mask, pro-COVID psychosis prosecutor, using Washington state law covering unlawful election facility entry, which is meant for breaking into, place more ballots, steal ballots, tamper with the ballots. And he decided to use it on them for this. This is political persecution. Now, you want to say Tim should have gotten a citation? Sure, I'll agree with you on that. But a felony for this? Are you out of your minds? This is political prosecution. Now, I know they're not the same county, and I know they're not the same prosecutor, but I want to contrast with you a different case. And this is one I saw from King 5 today. The man caught on video shoving two Seattle teen youth hockey referees to the ice in February has reached an agreement with prosecutors to dismiss the assault charges against him. Do you remember this video? We played it for you at the time. There's a dad who doesn't like the calls being made by youth referees. Youth referees are kids who are refereeing. He walks on the ice and shoves the kids down onto the ice. He's assaulting children. Uriel Isaac Cortez Gonzalez was charged with 2 counts of assault after a viral video showed him coming onto the ice at the Kraken Community Iceplex and pushing 2 officials to the ground. The 2 involved referees were 13 and 14 years old. So, Gonzalez will have to pay $1,500 in restitution to the teen referees, complete 80 hours of community service, and complete an anger management or youth sportsmanship course approved by the court. He is also barred from entering the Kraken Community Iceplex where the altercation took place. So let me just make sure I got this right. The guy who shoved 2 kids over, assaulted them, is getting off with basically a fine and community service. But yet this guy, who was already issued a citation, who wouldn't wear a mask, who didn't do anything wrong, is getting a felony that could cost him a job because he has a job that requires he have security clearance? It doesn't feel like there's any justice here in Washington state. It doesn't. It feels like something is really, really wrong with our state. This is something that is just beyond crazy, that we have multi-systems of justice, that none of them actually seem to be delivering justice at all. In fact, we have a Washington State Supreme Court that in an 8-1 ruling has given its official blessing to a secretive process that allows the offers and counteroffers, leading to more than $1 billion in taxpayer-funded compensation, to remain secret after the state budget is signed into law. So we don't get to know where our tax budget is going. We don't get to know how the bidders were chosen at all. According to an op-ed written for the Center Square by Jason Mercier, he says, by failing to uphold the clear intent of Washington's robust public records law, expect more labor unrest, not less, as a result of the ruling. For example, Washington state employees walked off the job last year to protest the compensation offers from then-Governor Jay Inslee. According to Como News, negotiators said they want to express their frustration with where the labor talks had gone. They called the wage offer proposed by the state disrespectful and are demanding livable pay rates. The problem is, except for a handful of people involved in the secret compensation talks, no one knew what the actual details were. So, for example, wouldn't it be nice to know how Bob Ferguson decided to pick the ferry contractors in Florida versus the ones here? You're not going to know any of that anymore. You're not going to know about collective bargaining anymore. You're not going to know any of that stuff anymore. You're not going to know anything that involves the unions bargaining contracts anymore because of this ruling that's trying to keep everything secret from you. What law are you guys relying on? Oh, I forgot who I'm talking about. The Washington State Supreme Court. They don't rely on the law. They rely on their feelings. Oh, the people voted for something? We're going to chuck that out. We don't want that anymore. We're going to chuck that out. We don't like that car tabs idea of $30 car tabs because it's going to hurt our friends over at Sound Transit. So it doesn't matter what you voted for. Any of the other initiatives you guys vote for? Nah, we're just going to chuck them out. It really feels like we're up against a wall here in Washington, where the left is just pushing us further and further and further. But occasionally, we push back. And when we do, occasionally they get the message. Now, this story was in the Center Square, and it cracked me up. Do you remember how, what was it, last week or the week before? We found out that Governor Bob Ferguson and a whole bunch of these little work groups were recommending that, hey, let's give out drugs to the addicts to make sure they're clean drugs. We'll give the drugs out to the addicts. Forget all the needles and all the other stuff. Nah, you know what? We'll give them those too. We'll give you everything. We'll give you everything you need to kill yourself. Well, the pushback was so bad that Washington's Substance Use Recovery Services Advisory Committee, or SURSAC, is now, according to the Center Square, distancing itself from recent recommendations made by a subset work group that included having the state set up a buyer's club to ensure a safe supply of illegal drugs for addicts. Give a listen to this clip that was taken from the meeting by the Center Square.
I want in full, just to make sure that information is getting to the committee. I wanted to share that over the past couple of weeks, there's been a number of news articles. I say news, but there's been a number of articles covering the Safe Supply Work Group and the work that the Safe Supply Work Group did.
Hang on a second. You say news, but you don't mean news? Is he insulting us who wrote that article? Is he insulting the Center Square who wrote that article? Because, guys, we took the information off your own website. So what are you mad at? You mad that it got covered and that none of the lamestream media did it and then it went viral? Or are you mad he got caught? What are you actually mad about? Let's hear the rest of this rambling nonsense.
And the recommendations that came out of that work group. As a reminder, developing a safe supply work group to look at what a safe supply intervention would look like in Washington State. That was one of SURSAC's recommendations back in 2021, 2022.
Hang on. So you're admitting it's factual. And it's called the Safe Supply Work Group. Gee, do you think the, I don't know, Wuhan Institute of Virology may have released the Wuhan virus? So you literally have the Safe Supply Work Group. But you're saying us news, air quotes, right? We're wrong in everything we said, you lunatic.
And as you know, as we've talked about, that work group developed its own set of recommendations and a legislative report. And there's just been a lot of incorrect media coverage on the basically how the work group is being presented.
What's incorrect? It's all on your website. It's all on your website. But you're calling it incorrect? All right, here we go. I'm going to put out a challenge to this individual, whoever you are. If it's incorrect, ask me to write a retraction. Ask me to update the article. Ask the Center Square. Ask our friend Carlene Johnson to update her article. If it's incorrect, you know what you normally do? You normally go to the outlet and say, hey, we want you to issue a correction. It's not incorrect. It was taken off your own damn website. What you're mad about is that you got caught.
And it's kind of being conflated with the SURSAC. And so just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of this. We did have our media liaison reach out to the entity that is responsible for these articles that I'm putting in the chat.
Wait a second. Did you? Mike, have you heard anything from these guys? Anything at all? Did you hear that?
How about no?
Exactly. So who exactly did you reach out to? You know what? I got to check with Carlene Johnson over at the Center Square. I got to see if they reached out to her.
To try to correct some of that misinformation.
Try to correct? It's from your website. What's incorrect?
To no avail. And so...
You mean because Carlene Johnson probably, if you actually did reach out to her, said pound sand? Because I took it from your website.
We are tracking this. I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of this, these articles, this media coverage of Safe Supply Work Group, and also share that we made an attempt to try to educate and kind of help delineate the responsibilities between SURSAC and the Safe Supply Work Group and how they're separate work groups. And also provide additional information about Safe Supply. So
it's called the Safe Supply Work Group. Oh, there's an explosion of chocolatey goodness in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Where'd it come from? You lunatics. You absolute lunatics. You're mad you got caught. In fact, I think during the commercial break, I'm going to text our friend Carlene Johnson. I'm going to see if they actually reached out to her about this. I want to know if that was fake news or misinformation or disinformation. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, the Washington Post is an absolute joke after publishing an op-ed from an actual clown about Donald Trump. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show, my friends. Just want to remind you that coming up this weekend, literally tomorrow and Sunday, KVI is going to be out at the Bremerton Air Show. That's right, the Bremerton Air Show is back for another year with modern military aircraft, classic planes, world-class performers. You might even get to see Starscream. I don't know. You might see it from Transformers. This year's theme is Mustang Mania, featuring the largest gathering of P-51 Mustangs in the Pacific Northwest. Get tickets and learn more at BremertonAirshow.com. And you get to see me and Mike out there on Sunday. Zach and Phil are going to be there on Saturday, I believe. And we'll have friends from some of our sister stations there as well. Well, I was actually just talking to Carlene Johnson during the break about what the SURSAC committee just said, that clip we just played for you. And apparently they linked her article, but didn't reach out to her. She reached out to them to say what was inaccurate about my reporting. And they said nothing. It wasn't inaccurate at all. So wait a minute, they're just lying to distance themselves? That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. You know what else was crazy? I'll tell you this. The Washington Post decided to, I can't believe I'm saying this with a straight face. The Washington Post published an article by a professional clown discussing how you shouldn't use the word clown to describe President Donald Trump and members of his administration because it's insulting to clowns and they're there to bring joy. Hang on. Do you guys get mad about that clown in It by any chance? Or any of that kind of stuff? I've seen the horror clowns and all that kind of stuff. But you literally printed an op-ed from a clown in the Washington Post because the clown is offended that they're using that term to describe Donald Trump. Tim Cunningham is a professional clown and a board president of Clowns Without Borders. He wrote in the Washington Post on Thursday about liberal critics' frequent use of the word clown to describe Trump and members of the administration. Quote, "None of this qualifies Trump for such a title. I am a clown and board president of the nonprofit Clowns Without Borders, and I'm here to set the record straight." He listed several examples of Trump being called a clown, including by Democratic strategist James Carville and MSNBC. He said that the president was a humiliated clown. The professional clown also noted there were kick out the clowns protests across the U.S. So let me just make sure I got this right. He says our joyful work has been diminished into an insult. Every election season, the word clown resurfaces to compare tumultuous Washington politics to a circus. Political commentators and social media users are not the only ones who wrongfully sling this jibe. Clown is used by almost everyone to belittle those seen as foolish or incompetent. The more we mistreat the word, the more we lose understanding of a sacred art form. You guys publish this nonsense? Really? He said people should find another way to despise and oppose fascism. Keep clown out of Trumpian comparisons, and for that matter, all politics. He suggested people use the word buffoon instead. You know what? That's offensive to buffoons. I don't like that very much. That's very mean. I'm sorry, I'm triggered right now. I know a lot of people who are buffoons, and that's not nice at all. He says clowns are more than children's birthday party performers. We help people relax, heal, and prompt others to think differently about the world. Okay, dude, putting a little bit too much into your art form there. Think differently about the world. Look, I like a good clown as much as anybody. Okay, I mean, that's not much, but whatever. Does it make me think differently about the world? I may consider your life decisions of choosing that career, but it doesn't really make me think differently about the world. All right, whatever, dude. I got nothing against clowns. I'm sure people love doing the business. But really, man? This was, of course, mocked widely on social media. What do you think, people? Should we stop using the word clown? Though, truth be told, we don't use the word clown a lot on this show. That's not in our vernacular. We don't usually call people clowns. We call them morons. We call them idiots. We call them stupid. We call them evil. We call them cowards. We don't use the word clown so much. Well, given that this is the high level of writing that's inside the Washington Post. Is it any surprise that they are now telling staffers to take a buyout? According to the Post Millennial, Washington Post publisher and CEO Will Lewis urged staffers who don't align with the paper's new editorial and business strategy to consider departing through a voluntary buyout program. In a memo sent Wednesday, Lewis made clear that the paper is undergoing a fundamental shift, and those who are not aligned with it are free to go. In a message obtained by Fox News, Lewis described the Post as being on the reinvention journey, citing changes like a revamped opinion section that now champions American values. He says if we want to reconnect with our audience and continue to defend democracy, more changes at the Post will be necessary. And to succeed, we need to be united as a team with a strong belief and passion in where we are headed. Acknowledging dissent among the staff, Lewis said the voluntary separation program is meant to provide a soft landing for those who no longer feel aligned. Quote, as we continue with this new direction, I want to ask those who do not feel aligned with the company's plan to reflect on that. The VSP helps you take that to the next step with more security. The VSP offers generous exit packages, including up to 18 months of base pay for veteran staffers and additional retirement contributions. The internal memo comes as the Washington Post reels from a sharp decline in both readership and subscriptions. Daily traffic has plummeted from a peak of 22.5 million users in January 2021 to just 2.5 to 3 million in 2024, a staggering 20 million user drop. You know, the Washington Post used to be where you got all your information on the Beltway. That was the news source. That was the reliable source. And now, since they took this leftward swing and are now publishing op-eds from literal clowns about what, you couldn't find some people on the left to criticize President Trump? You had to publish an op-ed from a clown? Are you kidding me? Revenue has fallen from 90 million to 174 million, and the company stopped reporting traffic figures publicly last year after a reported 60% decline. The drop in subscribers has been tied to a pair of controversial editorial decisions by Amazon founder and Post owner Jeff Bezos. In October of 2024, Bezos reportedly ordered the paper to rescind its endorsement of then-President Kamala Harris just days before the presidential election. That move triggered over 300,000 subscription cancellations. Let's not forget how many people unsubscribed in all the time before that. In February, Bezos announced a policy shift that editorial pages must now promote individual liberties and free markets. Hang on. Where's the clown in individual liberties? Well, you know what? He's got the individual liberty to live his life as a clown, I guess. So I guess technically, yeah, that does work with your new directive. Veteran journalists have left in protest. So basically, because people are trying to now save the outlet, you guys are protesting? Yeah, it sounds like it's a sinking ship, and you guys might actually want to get off that ship before it's completely underwater, especially after the clown editorial. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. Oregon businesses are in serious trouble. We'll tell you how bad it is when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. things are really not looking good down there in Oregon. So apparently Oregon's business friendliness ratings are in the absolute toilet. Now, I like Seaside. I like parts of the Oregon coast. I think Portland is one of the ugliest cities I have ever seen in my entire life. And you know what's sad about that? There's a river running through the sucker. It should be very pretty. But you know what it still looks like? It still looks like an industrial logging town. And I know that's what it was. I know that's what it sort of still is. It's not a pretty city. Also, there's not a lot to do there. What's the biggest tourist attraction? A bookstore in the middle of town. I know I got a whole bunch of people mad at me right now that I'm insulting Portland. But when you go to Portland, what do you go for? The food trucks or the bookstore? What else? Really, what else are you going for? Antifa? All right. So Oregon has dropped 11 spots in CNBC's annual America's Top States for Business ranking, falling from 28th place to 39th place in 2025. It's the lowest score in the history of the rankings. The state now sits 22 places below where it ranked in 2017 when it reached a high of 17th place. The rankings evaluate all 50 states across multiple categories, including economy, cost of doing business, and quality of life. Oregon's slipping competitiveness should alarm policymakers, said Angela Wilhelms, president and CEO of Oregon Business and Industry. It's well past time for them to listen to the business community and take serious action to improve the business climate. After all, a healthy business sector is necessary to create the economic conditions that lead to increased prosperity, greater philanthropy, tax revenue for important government services. Several of Oregon's key metrics fell sharply this year. The state's economy ranking dropped 7 places to 41st. Cost of doing business fell 9 spots to 43rd, and cost of living dropped 8 spots to 45th. Oregon also saw a steep decline in its quality of life ranking, which fell from 6th to 19th, and its technology and innovation category down 9th to 14th. There were a few bright spots. Oregon improved in 5 categories: infrastructure, workforce, education, access to capital, and business friendliness. How can you improve in business friendliness when everything about business has fallen? I'm starting to question the survey a little bit. Only California, New York, and New Jersey ranked lower than Oregon in business friendliness. Oh, so you went up to 47th from 48th. Okay, now I understand. Wilhelms acknowledged that CNBC's updated methodology now includes some factors that are out of state control, like trade tension. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Stop blaming everything on trade. Stop it. Okay, there are things you can blame on trade. But like Mike, we were discussing this, right? We're discussing how, like with the toy industry, how toy companies used it as an excuse to raise their prices. And then even when the trade deals were negotiated, they didn't bring their prices back down. So it was just an excuse to raise the prices. That's all. So Willem says blaming those national issues for Oregon's eroding competitiveness while ignoring the state's own policies and business climate is a red herring. You could say that about Washington. You could say that about any of these places. Back in May this year, Governor Kotek and Portland Mayor Keith Wilson announced plans to cut red tape in hoping of drawing more development to Oregon. Portland is open for business, for housing, for opportunity, and for a thriving future. Yeah, but you want to tax the crap out of it, and you want to make it so hard for people to do business, they don't actually want to come anymore. Let's go to the full rankings report here. Shall we for a second? Let's just scroll down here. Where's Washington in this mess? We're ranked 14th as a top state for business? No way. All right, I got to dial in on. Wait. Hang on. Oh, no. Hang on. Okay, let's dig into this a little bit more here. We are ranked 48th for cost of doing business. Okay, there we go.
Wait a second. How many states are there in these United States? I don't remember.
Are we counting the territories too?
I don't know, because that seems pretty low.
That is pretty low. Wait,
pretty
hang on.
low. And if Guam is higher than us, or Puerto Rico, come on.
Well, they would be higher than us, but they're not counted. And don't forget, Puerto Rico was destroyed by a hurricane. So
yes.
Yeah. Nobody's counting.
Yes, wiped off the earth. I forgot.
Exactly. Then, hang on, business friendliness. We're 41st. By the way, this survey, when was this done? Scroll up. Okay, so this was done after the legislative session, which means they don't know the full impacts of what the legislative session has done, which means next year. Okay, I'm setting a note in my calendar for 1 year from today.
It's from the before times?
Before the dark times, before the empire. So how much worse is our ranking going to? So wait a second. If all these things are bad for business, how did you put us 14th? How does that make any? Wait, what did you give us a good score on? Number 6 in economy? Oh, because we're producing so much money. You can only screw it up so much. Okay, hang on. There's that. Let's move across a little bit here. We're 26 in infrastructure. What infrastructure do you have around here? Oh, our roads aren't falling apart as much as many others? What kind of nonsense is this? All right. We're going to dig deeper into this at another time. Meanwhile, saw this article.
Meanwhile, it's time to find some new cheese. My gosh.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, here, got this one also from Oregon. On Thursday, Oregon U.S. District Court Judge Adrian Nelson ordered the pretrial release of an individual accused of firebombing and shooting up a Tesla dealership in January. Now, we've been tracking a lot of these lunatic activists, and when you release them, they go back to the battlefield. That guy who allegedly assaulted Cam Higbee, he was spotted at Antifa riots and protests on July 4th weekend. By the way, those protests and riots didn't get enough attention because everybody was on vacation enjoying July 4th. So that lunatic who allegedly assaulted Cam Higbee could go out into the world and assault whoever he wanted, and nobody noticed. So you're going to release this lunatic who's accused of firebombing a place? Let me ask you a question. If somebody firebombed a Planned Parenthood, you think this person would be released? No, but because it's a Tesla dealership, then you could do this. Adam Matthew Lansky of Salem, a trans-identified militant extremist sex worker. I'm sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. A trans-identified militant extremist. What's this person? Whoa, oh, dear God. Okay, hey, I hadn't looked at the picture yet. All right, so I'm throwing this out to the audience. Do you think this person has blue hair or green hair? They have both. They have both. No pink hair.
Oh, it's a real pan-save situation.
Very good, very good. Dude, you're not fooling anybody. You're just not. You look like a caricature of a woman here. So he's set to be released from the jail yesterday and will be moved to the Northwest Regional Re-Entry Center, a halfway house, pending trial. Oh, isn't that nice? By the way, this person's dressed up like they're in a burqa before they throw the firebomb. They're dressed in this whole face-covering black thing. Lansky had pleaded not guilty to federal charges that include 2 counts of attempted arson of a property used in interstate commerce and unlawful possession of an unregistered destructive device. Nelson is the second federal judge who ordered Lansky to be released from jail. Judge Nelson ruled that the release of Lansky on appeal after Assistant U.S. Attorney Parakam Singh filed to overrule U.S. Magistrate Judge Stacey F. Beckerman's release order issued on Wednesday. Singh argued that Lansky remained a danger to the public, yes, stating that he allegedly threw Molotov cocktails and fired an AR-15-style rifle into a Tesla showroom. Wait a second. It wasn't just firebombing. He also opened fire on this showroom. Judge Beckerman described Lansky's actions as very reckless, but claimed they were an outlier event and ordered his release from jail. Wait a second. You're going to trust the Antifa-affiliated militant sex worker who fired an AR-15 and threw Molotov cocktails? I ask again, if this was Planned Parenthood, would you be so lenient on the person? Seriously, I really do ask that. Citing his lack of criminal history. Additionally, Beckerman said that Lansky's actions were likely a result of mental health issues. Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa. Judge, I don't know if you can say that a trans-identifying militant sex worker might have some mental health issues? I don't think you're allowed to say that. Assistant Federal Public Defender Mark Alheimer, who is representing Lansky, claimed to the court that his client was likely experiencing undiagnosed manic episodes when he allegedly carried out the attack. What was your first indicator? What? Tell me, when I'm looking at these pictures, and I'm not showing them to any of you, and I will not post them, what was your first indicator? Was it the choice of hairstyle? Was it the whole sex worker thing with the trans identity or the militantness of it? What was your first indicator? Unbelievable. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, Fake News Friday with young Zach. Put a smile on your face heading into the weekend. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Who can rely on.
It's called Fake News.
With young Zach.
Educate yourself, you fool.
On The Ari Hoffman Show. Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Just a reminder, the new Superman movie being a woke train wreck is actual fake news. Saw it myself, and I'll have a full review for you on Monday. But we have young Zach with us from the morning show to tell us what the actual fake news of the day is.
Are you friends with Dean Cain or not? I'm confused, Ari.
I can disagree with my friends there, bro.
All right.
Yeah, it's clear that anybody who said that hasn't seen the movie. I'll just say that.
Well, in that article, Dean Cain actually says he hasn't seen the movie.
Exactly
in that
my
actual
point.
He wrote the article before the screening, I think.
Yeah, which is ridiculous because everybody said that and clearly hasn't seen the movie. Clearly. All right, what do you got?
All right, well, fake news. Babylon Bee was on fire. We haven't done this in a while. Where have we been? Republicans unveil new debt plan. Transfer balance to Capital One credit card with 0% intro APR.
Very good. Very good. So
what's in your wallet?
So true. The national debt, of course.
Yeah. Trillions and trillions of dollars worth of IOUs.
Yes.
After TSA policy change, production finally resumes at Crazy Mohammed Shoe Bomb Factory.
Oh, that's very good. Somebody's going to get mad about that one.
I hope
very
so.
good.
No, that guy's in prison.
Oh, super in prison.
Actually,
yes.
on the morning show, we had full legislation. I didn't know about that incident, so we had to I had to ask Phil.
The shoe bomber?
Yeah, listeners.
Oh, yeah, you were like 5 at the time or something.
He was born to it. I was 1.
Oh, never mind.
It happened in December of 01.
Yeah, and because of that one psycho, we all have to take our shoes off on. Well, not anymore.
Not no more.
But it's like that guy who was poisoning the medicine bottles. That's where he got the plastic.
Oh, that was a Tylenol killer, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't that?
one guy.
I know
one
some
guy.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not your fault. It's like it's the world you have known.
Exactly.
You were born into it, molded by it.
The government told me to take my shoes off. I thought that's how it was.
You only embrace the darkness. I was born into.
Yeah,
Yes.
Another TSA related one for the Babylon Bee. TSA announces passengers no longer have to remove their shoes before being fondled.
Oh no. By the way, they do not.
Oh, you gotta give him that huck to it.
She makes a return.
Oh no. They don't laugh when I make that joke. Are you going to buy me dinner first? Whenever they say, "Can I pat you down, sir?" I always go, "Are you going to buy me dinner first?" They never laugh.
Well,
no sense
maybe
of
you could
humor
try
at
an
all.
original joke.
Yeah, well, whatever.
I was gonna say, imagine the plight of the TSA guy. It'd be
Because
just
I
like,
always like the check register lady doesn't laugh at my joke when it doesn't ring up, and I said, "Is it free today?"
Yeah. I don't make that one. That one I don't do. Yeah. That one I don't do. I may be a dad, but I don't do all the dad jokes. I do like half the
just
dad
like
jokes. Yes.
yeah, I don't know if I was a TSA person, I would first of all. Could you imagine radio producer Big Mike as like the surliest TSA agent ever? It'd be like, "You gonna buy me dinner?" No.
You'd be like banging on that metal detector.
Exactly.
Why are you like
so
this?
many things? Yeah.
Why are you like
Full
this?
shampoo
Yeah,
bottle.
exactly. Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's like, why are you like
Is this 3 ounces?
Yeah.
I don't think it's 3
Is
ounces.
this your first time on an airplane? Do you not know how this goes?
Why'd you think you could bring this? Why'd you think you could bring this? What's wrong with you? Why are you like this? People over in Endgate would be just hearing like, it's like, what is that? Don't worry about it. Mike's on shift.
Mike's mad again. Yeah.
Yeah.
TSA becomes the terrorist. I like
it's the Big Mike villain origin story of how Mike became a terrorist.
Mike as a TSA agent is far better of a character than Ari's Jay Inslee at this point.
is.
This is the
I
best.
agree. I agree.
I am a TSA agent. What else you got?
What else you got, Zach? I don't know how you improve
What are your
on
qualifications?
That.
Well,
Holy
I
cow.
led my own militia.
Please, we are very well regulated.
It won't be after that TSA fiasco.
That is true. I'd just be like, lay down your arms.
It's not going to be that. It's going to be like, take up more arms. Screw the well regulation.
Oh, no.
We're going to war with these crazy
We are
people.
no longer well regulated. We are now poorly regulated. Rise up.
So the Big Mike militia stages an insurrection of the Transit Security Agency.
Excuse me, a deadly insurrection.
Just walking
very
Labradors up,
good.
and is that a drug dog? Nope, just my friend.
Oh, no.
Just a good boy I like to bring to work.
Okay, I think you broke us on that one. Oh, no.
Actual crime. The tears are
no.
real.
Very
There's
real.
just so many layers of Big
Very
Mike
real.
as a TSA agent that I love.
This is, what
Some
else you
guy's got a
Zach?
dumb name on his passport. Oh, God.
I take a couple days off and suddenly becomes the roast of Big Mike. This is great.
This is delicious.
I love it.
Oh, what else you got, Zach?
All right.
Back on track.
Nothing as good as this, but we'll try. Back to the Babylon Bee.
Okay, then.
Pam Bondi explained she was going to release the Epstein files, but then some pedophiles asked her not to.
Very good. Very good.
How dare you?
Yeah,
James
exactly.
Gunn releases film about the importance of accepting morally upstanding white immigrants who speak perfect English.
Oh, very good. I like
a good
that
one.
one.
Timely.
That's very good.
Oh, man. And two more from the Babylon Bee. Furious Gavin Newsom says he won't stand by silently while Trump fixes California.
That seems to be all the Democrat politicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like this last one for the Babylon Bee, too. Disney World installs animatronic district judge to block animatronic Trump.
Oh, that's good.
Bad news, Disneyland has installed an animatronic John Wilkes Booth.
Oh, no!
Death, death, death.
horrible death.
Well, they already have an animatronic Johnny Depp, and didn't he make those comments?
Oh, sure.
That's right.
Sure.
He made those comments. When's the last time an actor killed a president?
Oh.
Yeah, he actually said that.
Spicy.
So watch out for that animatronic Johnny Depp, robot Trump.
Last one, not political, just for you, Mike. Wall of Death, it's from the Hard Times. Wall of Death resumes after peace talks fail.
Yes. Very good.
I broke my glasses in a Wall of Death once.
Uh-huh.
So,
Very good.
anyway, that's all I got.
Up.
Open up the pit.
That's all you got today, Zach?
That all I got. That was enough.
Oh, it's okay. I enjoyed every minute of
Are
it.
you not satisfied?
Are you not entertained?
Do you
Right,
want
exactly.
more?
Oh, no, I'm very entertained today. I was just kind of hoping for a little more, given how good it was today.
Ari rolls up to the buffet, just food comatose. He's like, one more.
What else you got?
What else? What?
Clearly.
That's the line. That's the line. He's like, what else you got?
Clearly, you've never been to a Jewish wedding with me. That literally happens every single time.
Hold on, this Ari Hoffman is a TSA agent.
Oh,
Unpacking the bag. What else you got?
That smells delicious.
Yes. Just going through the whole bag. What else you
just
got?
grabbing
What
their
else you
food.
got?
Not kosher. But I'm allowed to eat it. Don't care. Don't just throw it away.
It's like that guy goes through so many garbage cans at his station. It's just like overflowing and spilling all over onto the floor.
But that is kosher, but I don't like it.
I don't like it. It's gone.
Not a
enough-
tuna
not enough
bagel and
barbecue
Coke
sauce.
trash can.
That's right. Get rid of that sucker. Young Zach, thank you very much. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Bye.
Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the King County Fair. But before we get to any of that, the President and the First Lady are on the ground in Texas surveying the damage from the flooding.
Worst that anyone's ever seen. Guadalupe River rose 26 feet in less than 45 minutes, and I've even heard it went well over 30 feet. There's one story that one person said it had to be 60 feet at one moment. This is like a giant, giant wave in the Pacific Ocean that the best surfers in the world would be afraid to surf. And it unleashed a catastrophic flooding as most residents were asleep in their beds. A very dark evening. The waters claimed at least 135, 140 lives. They're getting that count, but the count that they don't have is how many are still missing. But a lot of lives, a lot of young angels. At the Girls Christian Summer Camp, known as Camp Mystic, a legendary camp, a camp that people would want to go to from all over the country. People, parents, they come and they would stay with their children. They'd stay in other cabins just to be with their children, but a legendary place. They were there because they loved God, and as we grieve this unthinkable tragedy, we take comfort in the knowledge that God has welcomed those little, beautiful girls into his comforting arms in heaven. And we believe that, have to believe that, and we do.
Absolutely heartbreaking. The whole story, the whole tragedy is absolutely heartbreaking, which makes it even more nauseating when people try to politicize it. And you know what? If you're going to try and politicize this, Democrats, realize your own track record on these things. How many disasters, how many natural disasters were there during the Biden administration where people didn't get helped? You remember, I seem to remember this thing in Florida where they wouldn't give out aid to people who had Trump signs in their house. Yeah, you remember FEMA doing that? So really, you guys shouldn't talk about politicizing a tragedy or anything, because Democrats, Donald Trump had to come in and still clean up the damage from the North Carolina hurricane, which Joe Biden and his crew were completely unable to deal with. Meanwhile, listen to the accomplishments of this administration dealing with this tragedy.
My administration is doing everything in its power to help Texas, and I can tell you that, and the governor will be the first to tell you that when the request was made for the emergency funds, Christy, I think we gave it within about 2 minutes, maybe less, and they had everything they needed, right, immediately. So we've deployed over 400 first responders and assisted or enabled more than 1,500 rescues. Amazing, 1,500. Customs and Border Protection and the U.S. Coast Guard have deployed numerous search and rescue crews, and they're all over the territory.
Did you hear that? Border Protection was helping out. Oh, but ICE is evil! Protest the federal agents! Oh, ICE is evil! Here's something else. Sometimes a tragedy shows you the holes in your infrastructure. Sometimes it shows you that you have to change your policies. Here's something horrifying. You know, the camp was inspected 2 days before the floods, and they said, yeah, the bunks are far enough away from the river. Nobody ever could have assumed something like this would happen. A river rising almost 30 feet in 45 minutes? Yeah, nobody can predict something like that. But at the same time, are there things you can change? Let's take the Titanic for a minute. So much of our maritime law, that is now law, was changed because of the Titanic. For example, you know, before the Titanic disaster, you didn't have to always have your radio on when you're traveling on the sea? Do you know that we now have ships and planes and satellite images that are dedicated specifically to tracking icebergs and where they go? Do you know that before the Titanic, you didn't need to have enough lifeboats on board for every person on your ship? That's all stuff because of a tragedy. Now, the Titanic one, you may say, yeah, why didn't they think of all that? Well, because they never dealt with it before. So what are we actually doing to make sure something like this never happens again?
We're also taking historic action to ensure that such a nightmare never happens again. And we're going to look and see how can a thing like this, they could say it's 100-year. Somebody said it's a 500-year event. It doesn't. We're not going to let a thing like this happen again where it can wreak this kind of devastation. Earlier this year, I directed a sweeping review of the preparedness and critical infrastructure. I think, again, I have to say, whenever I say that, I have to say that the level of professionalism was incredible. But we'll all work together to find out exactly what can be done because they do want to rebuild, and they're going to.
By the way, that's a very key point. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Sometimes a natural disaster is just that, a natural disaster. Could there be a way in the future? Let's say this happened 100 years ago. Is there something about building a dam in one point where the water comes through that can stop this, that can regulate the water, that maybe they didn't have the technology for back then? Maybe something like that can be done. Maybe. Question is it going to get bogged down in infrastructure bureaucratic hell at the government level, or is it something that'll actually be done? But at the same time, it's important to always review these things. For example, it's Texas. So I assume there wasn't a lot of this contributing to it, but we do know that in Austin, one of their fire chiefs was really into this DEI stuff and seemed to prioritize that over anything else. Does that mean it had anything to do with this? Maybe, maybe not. But how much of our disaster response in FEMA and other organizations has this woke DEI ideology tied to it, rather than prioritizing rescues, rather than prioritizing all the trainings that we need for rescues? I know the Trump administration has already taken care of a lot of it, but there's so much more that can be done, and so much more hasn't been found. You're trying not to repeat the mistakes of the past. Now, mind you, it seems like the Democrats are 100% committed to repeating the mistakes of the past. Because now, who's the rock star of the Democratic Party? Zoran Mamdani, the communist Hamas supporter who's running for mayor of New York City. Let's look at the polling right now, shall we? So according to most of the polls, Mamdani is running at about 35%, which means he's beatable. But everybody's treating this like it's a foregone conclusion. Well, because here's the problem. You have Eric Adams, who's the incumbent, who's running as an independent. And this guy is filled with scandal. Now, I know a lot of you want to say, but Ari, he only got hit with all the scandal stuff after he was working with Trump. It doesn't matter. For New Yorkers, it's going to be seen as a scandal, and it's a pretty bad scandal, by the way. Bribery, always pretty bad. So he's only polling at 11%. You've got Cuomo, who's polling higher, even given all his stuff where he killed a whole bunch of people's grandparents in nursing homes in New York and all his disastrous running of the state. He's polling higher than Eric Adams. You've got Eric Adams is actually by net polling underwater. He's even worse off than that. So then you've got Cuomo, and then you've got Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee from the Guardian Angels, who's never going to win anything. He's a very nice guy. He goes on Sean Hannity all the time, but he ain't gonna win. Somebody needs to make a deal with Eric Adams, Cuomo, and Sliwa and say, here's the job you're going to have. Here's the job you're going to have. I'm going to be mayor. We're all going to unite to defeat Zoran Mamdani. Who do you think should drop out? Do you think Eric Adams should be the nominee? Do you think Cuomo should be the nominee? Do you think Sliwa should be the nominee? And even though Sliwa is the Republican, just a reminder, he lost to Eric Adams badly last time. This is a guy who runs for office all the time and always loses. I don't think that's who it should be. You guys decide who you think it should be. Give me a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, Ken Martin, who's chair of the Democratic National Committee, was asked about, hey, this guy is a communist. He's not even a Democrat. This guy hates Jews. Why are you guys letting him in your party? His answer is going to shock you.
I needed to learn more.
What about concerns from some of your Jewish colleagues in particular about him not outright condemning the phrase globalize the intifada in a recent interview? Some of your Jewish colleagues have said that that could be very disturbing, potentially dangerous. Do you agree with that?
You know, there's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe, as a Democratic Party chair in Minnesota for the last 14 years, and now the chair of the DNC, that you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition. We have conservative Democrats. We have centrist Democrats. We have labor progressives like me. And we have this new brand of Democrat, which is the leftists. And we win by bringing people into that coalition. And at the end of the day, for me, that's the type of party we're going to lead. We are a big tent party. Yes, it leads to dissent and debate, and there's differences of opinions on a whole host of issues. But we should celebrate that as a party and recognize at the end of the day, we're better because of it.
Okay. I'm going to try his speech again as a conservative Republican. And I'm going to say it from our perspective. And you tell me what the reaction would be to something like this. Look, there are things that white supremacist out in Idaho says that I disagree with. But you know what? At the end of the day, you win by addition. So I think we should add all the neo-Nazis and white supremacists to the Republican Party. I think we should add every single member of the KKK to the Republican Party, including this new brand of far-right psychopaths. I think we should add them all to the Republican Party. What would happen if I said that? In fact, odds are somebody's going to clip this and say, look what Ari Hoffman said. Look what he said. Even though I'm clearly making fun of what that guy just said. In fact, he followed it up with a terrible tweet, too. He said, the right-wing lie machine is at it again. That's not what I said in this interview. I've never supported or condoned the phrase globalize the intifada, a phrase which is reckless and dangerous, as it can be seen as a green light to terror, and it should be unequivocally condemned. Let me be clear. At a time of rising anti-Semitism, there's no place for rhetoric that can be seen as a call for violence. Oh, I see. So you just want to let in the guy who says that. Can we play his clip again just to see what he said?
I needed to learn more.
What about concerns from some of your Jewish colleagues in particular about him not outright condemning the phrase globalize the intifada in a recent interview? Some of your Jewish colleagues have said that could be very disturbing, potentially dangerous. Do you agree with that?
You know, there's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe, as a Democratic Party chair in Minnesota for the last 14 years, and now the chair of the DNC, that you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition. We have conservative Democrats. We have centrist Democrats. We have labor progressives like me. And we have this new brand of Democrat, which is the leftists. And we win by bringing people into that coalition. And at the end of the day, for me, that's the type of party we're going to lead. We are a big tent party. Yes, it leads to dissent and debate, and there's differences of opinions on a whole host of issues. But we should celebrate that as a party and recognize at the end of the day, we're better because of it.
Oh, we're better because we let in the terrorist supporters and the Hamas supporters. You know what happens when you have a big tent? Grover Norquist says this. You let in all the clowns. So you have to have some standards for what your party's about. Let's hear what Zoran Mamdani actually said when he refused to condemn this stuff.
You were recently asked about the term globalize the intifada, if it makes you uncomfortable. In that moment, you did not condemn the phrase. Now, just so folks understand, it's a phrase that many people hear as a call to violence against Jews. There's been a lot of attention on this issue. So I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada?
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead this city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights. And ultimately, that's what is the foundation of so much of my politics, the belief that freedom and justice and safety are things that, to have meaning, have to be applied to all people, and that includes Israelis and Palestinians alike.
But do you actually condemn it? I think that's the question and the outstanding issue that a number of people, both of the Jewish faith and beyond, have. Do you condemn that phase, globalize the Intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me, especially in light of the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado, about this moment of anti-Semitism in our country and in our city. And I've heard those fears and I've had those conversations, and ultimately they are part and parcel of why in my campaign I've put forward a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech in the manner especially of that of Donald Trump, who has put one New Yorker in jail who's just returned to his family, Mahmoud Khalil, for that very supposed crime.
Whoa! Hang on. He refuses to condemn globalize the Intifada, and then he says, well, I'm really mad that the president just put this guy in jail who's a terrorist supporter. Oh, now we see why you refuse to condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada, because you're mad that the guy who supports Hamas was in jail, that the guy who gives out propaganda from Hamas was in jail, that the guy who held people captive in a building at Columbia, trapped people in a building at Columbia, was released from jail. That guy. This is the big tent of the Democrat Party. These are the people they're releasing into the Democrat Party. Heading on over the text line, it looks like a lot of you say you want to unite behind Eric Adams. Man, this is just, you know what? Here's the problem. I don't know what option you have. Curtis Lee was not an option, so it's Cuomo or Adams? My God. It's like Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura 2, looking at the spear through one leg and the spear through the other leg. What choice do you have? These are all terrible, terrible options. There are no good options here. Speaking of terrorists, by the way, a divided federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. tossed out an agreement that would have allowed 9/11 terrorist mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to plead guilty in another failed effort to end a years-long legal saga. Why is this guy being allowed to plead anything? It should be no plea deal. We've got this guy by the you-know-whats. Prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. It's been almost 25 years. Make an example out of him. Finally have a president that's willing to do it. Why is anybody making any plea deals with this guy whatsoever? So I believe coming up in September is the actual trial for this. Could we finally be seeing a trial for the 9/11 mastermind after all these years? That's something I definitely want to watch. More fun to watch than the OJ trial, that's for sure. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, our friend Carleen Johnson from the Center Square will be joining us to give her side of what happened with those lunatics who are saying, let's give out clean supply of drugs to everybody in town. We'll have that for you, plus so much more. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that you should join KVI at the Bremerton Air Show this Saturday and Sunday. That's right, my friends. We're going to be out at the Bremerton Air Show, which is back for another year with modern military aircraft, classic planes, and world-class performers. This year's theme is Mustang Mania, featuring the largest gathering of P-51 Mustangs in the Pacific Northwest. Get tickets and learn more at bremertonairshow.com. Earlier in the show, we were discussing how Washington's Substance Use Recovery Services Advisory Committee, otherwise known as SURSAC, is now trying to distance itself from recent recommendations made by one of their work groups that included having a buyer's club for drugs, for a safer supply of drugs. So the state is basically giving out drugs to addicts to ensure that's a safe supply. So basically giving them the stuff that will kill them. Here's the audio of them trying to do so.
I want in full, just to make sure that information is getting to the committee. I wanted to share that over the past couple of weeks, there's been a number of news articles. I say news, but there's been a number of articles covering the Safe Supply Work Group and the work that the Safe Supply Work Group did and the recommendations that came out of that work group. As a reminder, developing a Safe Supply Work Group to look at what a safe supply intervention would look like in Washington State, that was one of SURSAC's recommendations back in 2021, 2022. And as you know, as we've talked about, that work group developed its own set of recommendations and a legislative report. And there's just been a lot of incorrect media coverage on basically how the work group is being presented, and it's kind of being conflated with the SURSAC. And so just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of this. We did have our media liaison reach out to the entity that is responsible for these articles that I'm putting in the chat to try to correct some of that misinformation to no avail. And so we are tracking this. I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of this, these articles, this media coverage of Safe Supply Work Group, and also share that we made an attempt to try to educate and kind of help delineate the responsibilities between SURSAC and the Safe Supply Work Group and how they're separate work groups, and also provide additional information about safe supply. So unfortunate to see some of the way that this is being presented and mischaracterized, and just wanted to make sure that I shared that.
Okay, hang on a second. I know this story was originally covered by our friend Carleen Johnson over at the Center Square. So I'm kind of curious how much of what this dude just said is actually true. So joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line is our friend Carleen Johnson from the Center Square. Carleen, what's up?
Hi, Ari. Yeah, that was kind of interesting because you heard him reference that audio clip you just played. He referenced, and that was the SURSAC chair, Tony Walton. He said, "I'm putting in the chat links to all the articles that had, bad misinformation or whatever, characterized us wrong." One of the articles he linked up there happened to be my story that I had done a couple of weeks ago. And so I was like, wow, what did I get wrong? Boy, maybe I really got something wrong. So I sent the article in its entirety that very same day to SURSAC and the chair and said, you referenced my article was inaccurate. How so? I received email response the next day, Ari, from a woman at the healthcare authority who then said, well, really, he just put that up there because he was linking all the articles that discussed it. It wasn't really suggesting that your article had anything wrong, and I can see from rereading it now everything was accurate.
Whoa, hang on a second. So he said he reached out. He didn't even reach out to you, and you're the one who broke this story. Right.
Not to me, and maybe, I think some of the other coverage of it, like Brandy Cruz's Undivided podcast, I think did a couple of things on it. You guys discussed it. I think those things that get maybe a little bit more coverage than my article even did, even though it was picked up by a number of our media partners. I think maybe he was referencing those. But the fact that you're going to put my article in the chat, and tell all the members of this committee that this article was linked to misinformation about what you're doing. Well, you better be able to back that up. And instead, I received a reply the very next day, a day after my story had been published and picked up by all our partners, saying, oh, no, your article was right.
So then are you going to follow that up with a demand for an apology from them for calling you fake news?
Well, I did actually tell them that I expected something further, and I looked forward to a personal discussion with Chair Tony Walton, because the bigger part of that, Ari, was then he failed to even say, okay, what was wrong in the coverage, whether it was somebody's podcast or my article, what was wrong? What my article pointed out was simply the fact that the SURSAC appointed work group was making recommendations, like you indicated, safe injection sites, a buyer's club so that we can pass out, drugs to these addicts that are already dying on our streets every day. So let's have the state on the taxpayer dime, pool our money together, and we can get a cheaper, safer supply of drugs so they can continue killing themselves. My article pointed that out, and now this follow-up meeting on Monday, obviously they'd gotten some bad attention because of the media coverage, and they went, wait, that was the work group recommendations, not directly from SURSAC. Well, too bad, so sad that it's out there. This was your appointed work group. This was your recommendations, and now you don't like it because the truth came out that they want to buy drugs and continue these addicts into addiction and to death. They didn't like the press, so they tried to distance themselves and tried to throw those of us that had covered it under the bus. So anyway, that's the way that went down. Obviously, I'm still a little heated about it.
I can't imagine why you would be. I mean, of course. Now I'm kind of curious what the other articles were in there, because I know we wrote about this thing. So the question was, I actually will over the weekend reach out to them as well. If you could send me their email address, that would be much appreciated.
I will do it.
And say exactly what was the fake news, because Carlene, your reporting is impeccable that you do for the Washington Square, for the Center Square, and we use it all the time, and we cover it all the time here on the show. And I went back after I heard this clip, and I said, wait a minute, let me check the article again, because I had the same thought. And I said, everything here is linked to the website. Everything here got pulled from the website.
Right.
They're just mad they got caught.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And, and who knows what, remember, these work group recommendations go to the legislature. So, Ari, there's every possibility that some of these far left-leaning, the harm reduction folks could absolutely put this stuff into pieces of legislation and say, yeah, heck, this is a good idea. Let's go this route and make sure we, keep our drug addicts as safe as possible. That's a contradiction in itself. But, there's no reason to think these work group recommendations still couldn't be coming up in legislation in a session to come very soon. So,
well, see, I think that's exactly what happened. I think they were planning on proposing this as stuff for the legislature. I think the legislature was going to come out with some of these as proposals in the next session. And I think you disrupted their plans. And I think when people like me and Brandy and others picked up this story and it went uber national, and Bob Ferguson is being painted as a drug dealer, which this would make him, I think he didn't like that PR. And don't forget, his office is in charge of all the media for all the different government agencies in our state. And he probably said, you got to clamp this down, and you got to clamp this down now. And what do they always do? Lie by saying, oh, no, it's not correct. It's fake media. It's fake news. And we know it was anything but, and it was 100% spot on.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And I did appreciate, too, one of the new members of the committee is Representative Mara Levitt of Stillicum. It was her first committee. She's a Democrat. She's definitely left to center. And she was the one who asked, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? Are we or are we not in support of this work group? Who do these people report to? She asked the question like 3 times, got no answers. She spoke to me after that meeting and said she was none too pleased as a first-day committee member not to get her questions answered, and she is going to follow back up with the chair and promises to follow up with me after that conversation as well. So I applaud her willingness to at least push back a little bit.
Excellent. That's great news to hear that there might be some accountability coming. Carlene Johnson from the Center Square, great job as always exposing all of this. And when you get the attention of the politicians who are mad at being called out for it, you know you did a really good job. Thank you so much for joining us.
We love that.
Yes,
Thanks, sorry.
Exactly. Exactly right. Thanks so much for being with us. Have a wonderful weekend. When we come back, the good news keeps on rolling. Got a rare GOP victory for the party here that will help with election integrity. We'll tell you what it is when Jim Walsh joins us next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, big victory for our local GOP. And because we are in a Democrat-controlled state, we don't get to celebrate those very often. Joining us now to discuss, Chair of the Washington State GOP and Representative for the Washington State Legislature, Jim Walsh. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's great to talk to you, Ari. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. It's busy. This summer has been busier than most summers in the Washington State political front, but we had a good news this week with this lawsuit that a left-wing group had filed about IL-26-126. That's the voter ID initiative that's working its way through the system.
So let me just make sure, because the Seattle Times and some other outlets can't get this right. What exactly does this initiative do?
That's a good point. Yeah, the Times has really embarrassed itself with some of its hysterical coverage. It does one thing, Ari. The IL 26-126 requires people registering to vote in Washington to prove that they are U.S. citizens and legal voters. That's the one thing it does. And it doesn't have anything to do with mail-in voting. It doesn't have anything to do with vote tabulation or counting. And some of the left-wing interest groups that have just lost their minds over this are claiming that it ends vote by mail. That is false. They claim that it's going to change the way votes are counted. That is false. All it does is says when people register to vote, they need to show that they're a citizen. They can do it with an enhanced driver's license. They can do it with a birth certificate. They can do it with a passport. There are several other options with how you can establish that you're a citizen, and it's laid out plainly in the proposal, and you need to do it so that our voter rolls, the databases of registered voters, are clean, that we make sure that they're valid and that the people on the voter rolls are legit citizens and legit voters. So it's a good reform. It's one thing, narrowly focused, and this showed up in the results in court. The left-wing organization called One America was suing to try to change the title that the state attorney general's office had written. Remember, the people who sponsor initiatives don't write the titles that appear on the ballot and other material about an initiative. That's the state AG's office. They do that. They wrote a title that we thought was okay, and the left-wing groups, of course, got all bent out of shape because it was okay. It was not confusing. It was not weird-sounding, as some others have been in the past. It was very straightforward. We thought it was okay. So we were actually on the side with the attorney general in court. And it was the left-wing group suing the state, trying to get the title changed. And they lost. We won. The judge made one or two very small changes to the attorney general's proposal, and we liked the result a lot.
So I'm a little confused by this because last time I checked, you have to be a citizen to vote, even though we know there's some problems that happen. So what legal grounds did they have for any of this? Just liking the title not liking the title was their case?
Well, it was really just a delay tactic, Ari. They do this to try to slow down an initiative and prevent the sponsors from being able to generate petitions to get signatures, because you can't do the petition until the final wording is worked out by the court, of course. So it's a delay tactic mostly. Their argument was really silly. One America's argument was it would make it difficult for people to register to vote, and it wouldn't. I mean, it was a very strange argument, and it was weak, and that's why they lost. So it was really just a delay tactic they were trying to do. They had a suggested title that was more confusing and imprecise, not factual, and the judge slapped that down, and rightly so. So the result was good. I think what they're trying to claim is any requirement that you establish you're a legitimate voter, you're a real citizen and able to vote, is somehow trying to make voting difficult, and that's not true at all. We want everyone to register to vote properly, and we want everyone to vote, but we want to make sure that everyone are citizens who are legal voters. Right now in our state, there's no requirement that someone registering to vote shows they're a citizen. All there is a check-the-box attestation. And if the person isn't checking the box, if it's a bureaucrat at the Department of Licensing doing it for the person, if it's a bureaucrat at DSHS who's giving them SNAP benefits, is filling out the form, there's no certainty that a person who's being automatically registered when they get a driver's license or apply for government benefits is actually a citizen. So this requires that good due diligence.
I've often told the story about how when my son registered to vote, he was not required at all to provide any form of identification whatsoever, was able to do it on a computer at my house just by clicking that box. Plus, we have the motor voter laws here where people who register vehicles are automatically registered to vote. And we've had documented cases of illegal immigrants who are voting, and yet the Secretary of State and others chose not to take any action against it. So now what are the next steps with this initiative now that it's passed this legal hurdle?
We generate the petitions. We circulate them around the state. You'll see them at county fairs and other public events through the summer and early early fall. We actually have through the whole fall. We have till the end of the calendar year to collect. The number's a little bit lower than it was. The formula for how many signatures you need changes based on the previous general election numbers. So right now we need to collect something like 330,000 signatures.
Gotcha.
And we've got till the end of the calendar year to do that.
Well, given that you guys were pretty successful at all those other initiatives, getting those pretty quickly, including the one to stop the ban on natural gas, which you guys were able to get in, 90 days or something like that? I think you guys can handle
It was shorter than 90 days.
Yeah.
All right, that was a real short window. We've got more time on this one for sure. And we're optimistic. I mean, you always have to work hard at it, but we're optimistic we'll get the signatures. In fact, after the court hearing yesterday, even some of the staff attorneys for the state were acknowledging this one's very popular and it's got momentum and is likely to get through the signature gathering phase. And then once it it'll go to the legislature. It's an issue to the legislature, and if the legislature punts on it and doesn't take any action, then it goes to the people. And the lawyers were saying, well, I'm sure we're going to see this again after it passes into law. Someone will try to challenge it, and we'll be ready for that too.
In the last few minutes we have with Representative Jim Walsh, who's also chair of the Washington State GOP, there's rumors going around about a special session. The governor mentioned he might be considering one in an interview recently. And if there is a special session, do you think this is something that might get discussed at it if you get the signatures in time?
It's possible. More likely, if there's a special session, it's going to focus on the absolute mess, the dumpster fire that Bob Ferguson and Jamie Peterson and the other left-wingers in Olympia have made of our budget. So I imagine that will be the focus of a special session. The timing on this election reform, IL 26-126, is really geared for more early 2026. So it's possible the legislature would take it up, but most likely that special session is going to deal with just the absolute mess that Ferguson and his friends have made of our state's budget. As you know, Ari, the real issue is that ending fund balance, the bottom line on the operating budget. By law, it has to be a positive number, and it is dangerously close to being a negative number right now because projected tax receipts to the state are lower than expected. And if it goes into the red, that ending fund balance, then we're out of compliance with the law on the budget, and the governor will likely have to call a special session. So he's really on a razor's edge right now with the shape of the budget, and that's ridiculous because he's raised taxes so high. If he had any kind of fiscal discipline, we wouldn't be in this situation, but his recklessness in putting together that operating budget now are yielding some more trouble than he was anticipating, and anyone with any sense at all could have predicted this.
Yeah, and this isn't Inslee's budget. This is his budget. He made this mess. It didn't have to be this way. There were other ways they could have gone with this, so he doesn't get to blame the guy before him. Representative Jim Walsh.
He'll try, though, Ari. He'll try to blame Inslee. They'll do a photo op together, and then Ferguson will stab him right in the back and try to blame Inslee for the budget troubles. But no, the budget troubles are on the current governor, Mr. Ferguson.
Wait a second. They did a photo op yesterday together on a ferry. I think they did step one already, so just wait till step two comes along. Representative Jim Walsh, appreciate you joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
It's always good to talk to you, Ari. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win $50 Daniels Broilers gift card, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode, another amazing week of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And it's especially a good day because on your way home today, you should get yourself a free Slurpee at 7-Eleven. That's right. It is 7-Eleven's 98th birthday. The date is 7-Eleven. The first store opened in Dallas in 1927, and at participating 7-Eleven, Speedway, or Stripe stores, they are giving out a free small Slurpee. Remember when it used to be bring in whatever container you want, you could have as much Slurpee as you want, people bring in pots and stuff? Good thing they don't do that anymore. 7-Eleven has celebrated its birthday with free Slurpee since 2002. Special twist this year, select 7-Eleven and Speedway locations will also be giving members of the 7 Rewards and Speed Rewards loyalty programs special Slurpee-activated temporary tongue tattoos. The S-shaped tattoos, when placed on the tongue after sipping the frozen drink, appear in blue, green, red, or purple. Visit a participating 7-Eleven on Friday, July 11th. You can get a free small Slurpee, 1 per customer, no purchase necessary while supplies last. Also, you can get a second freebie. To secure your second drink, scan your 7 Rewards and Speedy Rewards app on July 11th. You will get a coupon for another free small Slurpee, which is redeemable through the end of the month. Now, 7-Eleven licensed the frozen drink in 1965 from Omar Knedlik, who founded and became the Icy Company. At his Dairy Queen franchise in Coffeyville, Kansas, he sold bottles of Coke partly frozen, according to Kansas Public Radio. With the help of Johnny Mitchell manufacturing firm, he designed and built the machine in 1960, patented in 62, and began calling it Icy, according to Smithsonian Magazine. The Dallas, Texas-based manufacturing firm, which made artillery shells and missiles during World War II, sold 300 machines within 5 years. Priceonomics.com reported that when 7-Eleven bought machines, the company called its version of the drink the Slurpee. Isn't that interesting history? I had no idea all that history about the Slurpee. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow to your financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away 4 tickets to the King County Fair, July 17th through 20th. The King County Fair is the fair to see since 1863. July 17th through 20th at the Enumclaw Expo Center. With carnival rides, free entertainment, livestock, and shopping, saddle up for heart-pounding action and edge-of-your-seat excitement. Watch Fearless Cowboys take on the toughest bulls and broncs in town. Get your boots and get your tickets now for the King County Fair.
That's really exciting. I'm going to be there on Saturday at the KVI booth. I've never been to the King County Fair before. I'm excited to check it out and meet members of the Big Mike Militia, the KVI Nation, Ari's Army, and whatnot. That's going to be a ton of fun. But before we get to that, this weekend, you and me, buddy, we got a date at an air show.
That's right. Before we give you the number to call and tell you how to win these fantabulous prizes, Mike and I are going to be out at the Bremerton Air Show this weekend. That's right. We're going to be out there. It's Mustang Mania. They've got the largest assemblage of P-51 Mustangs. You're going to see all these awesome planes. I'm so excited because I've never been out there before. Mike and I are going to be out there on Sunday at the KVI booth, so come find us at the Bremerton Air Show. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 4 tickets to the King County Fair. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Don't forget to come see us out at the Bremerton Air Show this weekend. Tickets are still available. Mike and I will be out there on Sunday. We would love to see you there, and we're really looking forward to the show. That's going to do it for us this week, my friends. But fear not, we'll be back on Monday with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.